Hello, fifth graders. This is Mrs. Walsh, and I am here to review with you Chapter 6, Lesson 3, which is multiplying decimals by a whole number. So your learning target for today is I can multiply decimals to hundredths using what I have learned about place value. If you need to make yourself a place value chart to help you, you can. And I can multiply decimals by whole numbers. So because this is review, we are just going to get straight into it. Okay, so one way to multiply is by repeated addition, because multiplication is just that, repeated addition. And so this question, let me get my pen tool, asks us find the area of a rectangular board that is 4 feet by 3 and 62 hundredths feet. So remember, with our place value, let me quickly do your place value chart. You've got your ones, your tens, and your hundreds, 100. And then you've got your tenths, your 100ths, and your 1,000ths. Okay, so if you've got three ones and 62 hundredths, so that's what we say, 3 and 62 hundredths feet. So we have a rectangle, and it's 4 by 3.62. So to get the area of a rectangle, we multiply the length by the width. So repeated 4 times 3 and 62 hundredths means, oh, there we go, 362 plus 362 plus 362 plus 362. That takes an awfully long time. Wouldn't it be much faster just to do this? Well, yes, it would, but because this has us do it right here, 2, 4, 6, 8, that's 24, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, plus 2 is 14. So our answer is 14 and 48 hundredths, okay? So let's go to the next page, and here we have it, the multiplication done for you right here. So when we multiply decimals, we always want to count the number of decimals behind or to the right of, the number of places, digits, behind or to the right of the decimal point. Right here we have 1, 2. So when we multiply, when we get our answer, we need to put our decimal point back in. So we count 2 places from the very far right here, 1, 2. So what you can do if you prefer is to rewrite the problem without the decimal point, because when we're multiplying, we can just ignore the decimal point. So if you prefer, you don't have to. If you prefer, you can just do it like this, or you can rewrite it. You're going to get the same answer, okay? And then you can put in your decimal point like that, okay? Because you have 2 numbers here. You want 2 numbers in your answer, okay? So let us try one right here. Why is this not? There we go. All right, so I'm going to estimate 3 times 96 hundredths. Okay, we've just got 96 hundredths. Just do this one time for you, so you can see, okay? And you're going to estimate it's really close to the number 1, So we have 3. Our answer should be close to number 3. So we're going to multiply as with whole numbers. You can rewrite it. Do you need the decimal point there? You can write it as 96 times 3. And then you can put your decimal point in at the end, or you can do it like this. So let's try 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 9 is 27 plus 1 is 28. Oh, what did I forget to do? I forgot to count how many numbers to the right of or behind my decimal point. I had 2. Okay, so now I want to put my number back in. I go 1, 2. So my answer is 2.88. Now, if you do it with the decimal point, you're going to get exactly the same answer. Okay, your answer is going to be 2.8. 2 and 88 hundredths. Okay, 2 and 88 hundredths. So let's do some more. Okay, so I have 5/10 times 6. So how many numbers do I have to the right of or behind the decimal place? I have 1. So now I can either rewrite it as 5 times 6, or I can do it this way. So what is 6 times 5? What's 6 times 5? We have 30. Now I need to put my decimal point back in. How many numbers do I need to go? How many numbers do I need to have behind or to the right of the decimal point? 1. So I go 1. My answer is 3.0. Okay. Now, if you don't want to rewrite it, you don't have to. You can do 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 0 is 0 plus 3. And you see we have the same answer. So you choose which method you would prefer, okay? Now, so let's do the next one. 6 times 4 is 24. Oh, how many numbers do we have to the right? 1. Sorry, I forgot about that. I jumped right into it. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. So the answer is 10 and 4/10. Okay, this one already has a decimal point put in there for you. Let's try some without. So now I have 2 and 49 hundredths times 3. Now we need to count how many numbers do we have behind or to the right of the decimal place. Decimal point, I have 2. I'm going to make sure I know that. I'm going to circle it. Now, you can either rewrite it as 249 times 3, if you would prefer, or you can just leave it like that. It really depends on whether that decimal point bothers you and it confuses you. You can do it either way. You're going to get the same answer. Okay, so 3 times 9 is what? Say it out loud. I hope you said 27. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. And 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now I need to put my decimal point back in. How many numbers do I need to have after the decimal point? I need to have 2. So I count my 2 numbers and I put in my decimal point. So there is my answer. You would get the same answer if you did it this way. Okay, so now I have 1 and 59 hundredths times 7. Now, how many numbers do I have behind or to the right of the decimal point? I have 2. Okay, so now if you'd prefer, you can rewrite your problem. Again, you don't have to. It depends on how you find it easier. Now, 7 times 9 is, I hope you said, 63. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 6 is 41. 7 times 1 is 1. Sorry, 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. Now I need to put my decimal point back in. I need 2 numbers after the decimal point. So I go 1, 2, and there I have my decimal point. There's 2 numbers right there. So my answer is 11 and 13 hundredths. Because, there we go, 13 hundredths. Now, number 5. How many numbers do I have after the decimal point? I have 1. Now I can do this if I want to and rewrite it. Okay, so 4 times 7 is, I hope you said, 28. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 is 23. Okay, now how many numbers did I have after the decimal point? I had 1. So I can put my decimal point in right here. My answer is 23 and 8 tenths. Okay, let's do some more. Okay, we have 48 hundredths times 3. Now, I do not need to have that 0 there when I rewrite it. I can just write it as 48 times 3. Okay, if you want to put the 0 there, you can. However, we're going to get the same answer. Okay, so 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Okay, so now we have to add our decimal point back in. So how many numbers, oh, I didn't write that down, sorry, 2. How many numbers do we have? 2. So I want to go 1, 2, and put in my decimal point right here. So I have 2 numbers behind after to the right of the decimal point. So my answer is 1 and 44 hundredths. Okay, so now here, how many numbers do I have behind or after to the right of the decimal point? I have 1. Again, if you want to rewrite it to make it look prettier, you can. So now we have 8 times 4 is, I hope you said, 32. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19. Now I have to put my decimal point back in again. How many numbers do I have? 1. So I just want 1 number there. So my answer is 19 and 2 tenths. Okay, number 12. So here it's going horizontally. I like to do my problems vertically. So I could write it as 0. So 66 hundredths times 5. Or you could just do 66 times 5. You're going to get the same answer. So if you want to write it as 66 times 5, you absolutely can. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 is 33. Oh, sorry. forgot again to count my decimal places first. Okay, so I had 1, 2. Okay, so now I need how many numbers behind the decimal point? I need 2. So I start all the way over on the right, 1, 2, put my decimal point in. So my answer is 3 and 3/10. Could I say 3 and 3/30? I could, but I'm going to write it like this because I don't need that 0 because I have 0 100ths. So I just have 3/10. So my answer is 3 and 3/10. Quickly show you my place value. My ones, got my tens, my decimal point, I've got my tenths, and I've got my 100ths. So if I was to put it in like place value, I have 0 100ths, so I do not need to write it. I've got 3/10. I've got 3 and 3/10. Okay. Now, the last one here, 67 times 4 and 3/10. Now, I'm going to rewrite it vertically because it's prettier. And it doesn't matter how you write it, whether you put the decimal number at the top or the decimal number at the bottom. I'm going to rewrite it as 67 times 43. Okay? So that's going to make it much easier. Now, how many numbers do I have behind after the right of the decimal place? I have 1. So that's where I can put my decimal point in. Now, 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 6, what's 3 times 6? 18 plus 2 is 20. Now, don't forget your placeholder, you need your 0 there. Now, 4 times 7 is, ready? Do you know it? 28. 4 times 6 is 24 plus 2 is 26. Now be very careful. Remember to line up your numbers properly. Then we're going to add them together. 1 plus 0 is 1. 0 plus 8 is 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. 0 plus 2 is 2. Now we need one number after the decimal point. So I just go in 1. My answer is 288 and 1/10. So that's your answer. So that is how to multiply a decimal by a whole number. Remember, the first thing that you do is let's do 2.36 times, I don't know, let's do 2. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is count the numbers that you have. How many do you have after the decimal point? I have 2. Okay, write it down, circle it. Now you multiply as usual. You can either do it like that, or remember, you can write it without the decimal point. Doesn't matter, you're going to get the same answer. The most important thing is putting the decimal point back in the right place afterwards. So 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 2 times 2 is 4. Now I have to put my decimal point back. Okay, how many numbers? 2. I go 1, 2. I have my 2 numbers right there. My answer is 4 and 72 100ths. Okay, that's a review of how you multiply whole numbers by decimals by whole numbers. Okay, so your assignment is, you can complete the assignment on iReady, complete the reteach page, and post it to your class dojo portfolio. And if you want to, you can also do the assignment on Prodigy if you want some extra practice or to play. If you need help, you can re-watch the video. You can write down your questions and ask during office hours, or you can message your teacher. Have fun multiplying decimals by whole numbers.